Okay, so with Thursday, market has closed. Let's review the action. First of all, I predicted that the markets would go up today. They definitely did not. So I got that wrong. The SPY, the Nasdaq, the Dow Jones, the Russell all lower significantly. So 2.5. Nasdaq almost 3% at the close. It was actually lower at some point. However, I still think we're bottoming here. So obviously, there's quite a few people who thought that it would have continued after yesterday's very strong close. And I'll go over some of the other elements to the market. So the FX, the yields, which suggest that it was a bit of a special day today. But I still feel like we are going, okay, it wasn't a sideways day because we're down 2%, but it's bottoming in my opinion. So I think tomorrow is very important because the weekly close is also very important. The weekly candles for example, if tomorrow we close a little higher, then you've got a real nice doji on the weekly, which really should statistically, improve the odds of a bounce next week. So I still don't change my thesis that we're going to move up into this sort of gap zone here, although we almost closed it yesterday. So first resistance here, second resistance there. So I don't change my prediction that we're going up. It's just the time scale. Instead of happening today / tomorrow, so Thursday, Friday, it'll be likely Friday / early next week. So although it was an ugly day, I still think it's sideways to up in the short term. Obviously, my long-term thesis is we still go lower, bar some, coordinated central bank quantitative easing program. But besides that, I still think we go lower. So tomorrow, I still think we're gonna kind of go up. Let's see what happens. So that's the SPY down 2%. It was actually lower. It actually made a new low, if you see that on the SPY. So that's quite significant, but still, I don't think that doesn't change my thesis. The Nasdaq did go lower compared to its last 3-4 days, sort of touching exactly the low from 16th of June. This happens, this is just, to me, it's the same general direction. The Dow Jones, it already broke its mid-June lows. But again, in this case, it didn't take out its lows from Tuesday. And then the Russell, didn't take out its mid-June lows and didn't take out any of its other recent lows. So to me, that's kind of sideways bottoming, double bottom action. Although after yesterday's close, it's a big red day. It's just that we happen to not be significantly lower, gapping down. So yeah, my thesis doesn't change, just maybe 1 or 2 days or 3 business days delay on the pop. Let's see. Obviously, it could just flush lower tomorrow, and then it's a change of thesis. Although the long-term thesis remains that we go lower. I've said that for a very long time. So it's just I like to try and get the very short-term trends also right. So yeah, markets were down pretty heavy today, and the VIX therefore was up. Still holding that sort of 32 zone. We've identified 32 already, but 32 between 32 and 34, although it did venture up to 35 the other day. I didn't expect it to be that strong. So the VIX sort of sideways, obviously a little up, but still was within that sort of resistance zone. So that's to be expected too. Now yields, to be honest, I got the market direction wrong for once, but everything else actually was kind of correct. So the yields didn't really go up; they kept on going down. So my thesis for the very short term, since this sort of top over here was yields down, dollar down, and that kind of wasn't a monumental move in the yields, but yields were kind of sideways down, nothing up too much. Okay, they were up a little bit here, but it's kind of no action. 1% move in yields is, I'm just not even going to spend any time with the yields because that's just sideways nothing. But that in and of itself is something to consider, because normally when the market goes down like this or more, the yields are going up crazy, the dollar's going up crazy. In this case, today, it was a bit special because the markets went down significantly. I think anything more than a 1% move up or down is significant. And when you've got 2, 3, and at one point almost 4% on the Nasdaq, that's very significant. That's big moves. Yields unchanged, basically. The dollar, and I'm done with the yields. I mean, the yields, that's it really. A bit more on the pound because that was a crazy week, but basically nothing really, even in the UK and EU market. So yields unchanged. Dollar, okay, it's a bit of a move down, but still it's a move down. Again, that's what I predicted, but the point is you'd expect the dollar to be going up when the markets are crashing. So, the currencies did what I thought. The yields kind of didn't move / did what I thought. But the point is they did the opposite of what you would expect if the market's crashing. So that's something to consider. And I thought that was a bit strange. I feel like the markets sort of they were more concentrated on micro caps, let's say, not micro caps, but micro economics, such as specific stocks. So Apple was falling, the big ones were falling a lot today, which is why the index was down a lot. And I feel like that's what was the focus, rather than the bigger stories such as yields and the dollar. So that was a bit strange, but that's why I didn't really believe in this drop too much. Again, I feel like we're bottoming. But anyway, FX kind of did what I thought. Yields, okay, they weren't down much, but they weren't up. So anyway, let's look at commodities. So commodities actually, and remember, most of my portfolio, I've got a lot of cash, like 50% cash on the sidelines, dollars, all dollars. So I've been loving this dollar up crash at the moment. But most of it otherwise is just pure gold and silver stocks. And although the markets were down, it took a while for me to appreciate how much down they were because, well, the mining indexes were up. So actually what I was focusing on was this, and it was an update. So that is the first time. The second special feature of today was that the GDX, the GDXJ were up when the markets were down. And they were up. Okay, they're not up that much. And actually, they closed up. Their strongest period was at the end, at the close, although they were strong throughout the day. But the point is, the markets were down 2-3%. That's a lot. You'd expect these gold mining stock indices to be down 5-6% on a day, like especially after yesterday having a crazy move up. So the fact that they weren't really red, I mean, they were red a bit during the day, but the fact that they were strong throughout the day, and I knew they were going to go green, and they closed high of day basically at the close. Very, very powerful. And this is what I was focused on. And this has kind of been my focus also on yesterday's commentary, that we would go higher here. So yeah, the fact that the yields didn't go up, the fact that the dollar did not go up, and the fact that the GDXJ didn't go down with the markets was, yeah, it's just something to consider here. So just to quickly recap on gold. Gold also, okay, silver was slightly red, but you can see most of the day it's spent a little in the red. I can just zoom out a little bit. But then you have this nice reversal, and it was this period here when you had this strong bounce, and I actually don't know what it was that did this bounce. This is when the markets came down, but gold was one of the only assets to go up during this period. I actually don't know what triggered it. I think I wasn't paying attention at that time, and I never looked it up because other things had my focus. But I think that's what really shifted the correlation between gold and other risk on assets, let's say. But yeah, at that point, I was pretty certain that gold would go green. Plus, I thought the markets would actually go off their lows, which they did. So even though they closed down sort of 2%, they closed off their lows. And gold, so when the market went down, gold didn't really go down much. And then when the market went up, gold went up, generally speaking, especially the indices. So for me, that is a pretty important break in correlation. It's very bullish. It's rare. And when it happens, usually it signals that there is a short-term trend change. And And to be honest, sometimes the miners lead the markets first. It's one of the first little tiny sectors out of the whole market that leads or indicates the new direction, lower or higher. Anyway, so gold, I want to zoom out because that circle ruins it a bit. Gold held very well, it's very bullish. I still think we're going to go up, test 1680-ish. Let's see, because I still think the dollar's going to go down to 110/111, and that should provide a nice tailwind to gold. Silver, although it was red today, it's been strong for a long time. I think if gold goes up, you can expect silver to go all the way up over here, what I said in my last video. So gold and silver, I remain pretty bullish short term. Long term, very, very bullish, but short term bullish. Medium term, maybe bearish, because I still think the actual overall markets are going to roll over. And I think gold and silver will have to go lower, but they, their buys on any dips, on strong dips. There's a strategy to play also on dips. You don't want to buy every 2% lower, maybe give it 5-10%. And anyway, that's up to you. But very short term, think it's going up. Medium term, think it's going down. Very long term, going up. So that's gold and silver. Now, obviously, the GDX, GDXJ I've already gone through. I think the next resistance is up here. It's not just the high that it got at in the last couple of sessions, but it's also the downtrend line here. I think that's pretty evident. So GDX closed the gap, nice and bullish, closed at high of day, nice and bullish. You can see it there. GDXJ, same thing. Hasn't completely closed the gap, pretty much has. It's got more to go though. GDXJ, I'm even more bullish on. Same thing. This we've taken out now. I'm just going to completely delete it. I didn't sell anything today. That's how adamant I am that we're going high. I sold a bit yesterday, pretty much at the high of day. So for me, it's not enough of a percentage move to sell more, unless I really think the market's going down. Then of course sell now. But I think we're going to go a bit higher. And I mean, I think if the market goes up tomorrow, GDX and GDXJ go up. If the market goes down, I don't know. I feel like we'll go sideways, maybe a little bit red, but I just feel like we're destined to go a little higher in the metals. So that's it, really. I don't want to spend too long. The portfolio, for example, yesterday was a nice day. I mean, I remember CD was my best performer that I nibbled a little bit out. It was up 15%. It's my favorite silver stock, sorry. And again, up 4-5% today. So, I know the markets were down 2-3%, and I use it as a general barometer. And usually the miners follow, but I haven't really felt the redness of today because by and large I was green on my, most of my holdings. The smaller holdings I have, I prefer them to be red because I'm very light in them, and these are general stocks. The only other stock, and sometimes I review this, is Trion Energy, oil and gas, basically a gas energy play. And today it just had a crazy move, up 25%, and it does this sometimes. I'd actually bought it down here the other day because it'd come down so much. I always sold on the way up here. I think my last sell was 42 when I was on holiday in the car. I think I mentioned that in one of my old videos. And I didn't know, I bought the other day at 33 something on the way down. It must have been here. And then I bought the other day at basically 29 something around here. And then I sold a little bit here. It's just typical swinging it, especially when it's 25% move. And if we go all the way up here, I'm going to be selling, I think it's just below 40, typically 39.89, and then let the rest ride. And actually TCF is the same stock. It's just the Canadian one. It's got more history. I just feel like I'll nibble a little bit out on the equivalent of this, which is 40 in this one here, the US one, and then more up here, and then let the rest ride. So just typical swinging. When I believe in something long term, like I do these, I'll nibble on the way up, on the way down, every 10, 15, 20% move, and always have a core position so that just in case it really surprises me, I hold a large amount. So anyway, that's really it. I'll just actually finally let me go over crypto. That has been a very difficult one to determine I thought I was a little bit bullish. I think this was a Monday, and then Tuesday it popped because that's what I thought it would do. But then it came all the way back down, and then yesterday it was a little green, but yesterday was a crazy market day, so I expected more. So I remained bearish for these 2 days, Tuesday and Wednesday. And today it was kind of sideways up, a bit like gold, whereas all the markets went down. And that's another interesting dynamic. You've got the market and the Nasdaq, down 3%. You've got the Nasdaq down 3%, and you'd expect Bitcoin to be down 5 or something. And instead it's basically sideways up. And I feel like it's coiling. I'm stuck between whether it's coiling to go up or whether it's going to fail to coil and go down. And obviously, I don't want to be one of those people who says, oh, it could go up, it could go down. Obviously, I'm right, it can do anything. But now I'm leaning towards it going up because the fact that it's lacking momentum on the upside, but it hasn't breached this sort of downtrend line. I don't know how precise it needs to be. I may have to be even more precise than this to make sure I really nail it, but I feel like it's just waiting for a certain amount of days to get to this point to breach. And maybe if the market does bounce, if the SPY and the Nasdaq do bounce, maybe that's the catalyst. It needs to go up. If the markets could drop, well, so far it hasn't dropped with the markets too much. I just feel like I'm leaning towards bullish actually now. So, but again, I'm not in this trade. I'm in one crypto miner. I don't hold a lot. It's part of my portfolio, and like I said, these ones down here very light. They are positions I want to build. So if they get destroyed, I'm actually very happy. I like 3D printing. These three are 3D printing. This is just a marijuana company that I've got very little in. MindMed is just a shrooms company, a bit like this one that I have very little in, although it got destroyed the other day. And I did add. Hive is the crypto miner, follows the chart very well. It's more Ethereum based, but if Bitcoin goes up, then this would obviously be moving up a lot very quickly. I should actually buy more of this, but just feel like even if Bitcoin has a pop, I still think it's going to go down because just like my thesis, short term I might be a bit bullish because I feel like the market's going to bounce and therefore all assets are going to bounce. But long term, I feel like we're going lower, and therefore I want to get it even cheaper. So, anyway, crypto, I just feel like it's interesting. It has not been dropping with the market, although it should have been more bullish a few days ago, and it wasn't, which made me turn a bit bearish. I just feel like it should have gone down a lot today, and it didn't. So, I'm bullish if I have to choose. Anyway, that's it. Good luck. Thanks for joining.